8:30, we'll call the Sawyer County Zoning Committee meeting to order, please. Kathy, may we have a roll call?
Yes. Ron Buckholz. Okay. Tweet Schuman.
Here.
Kay Wilson.
Here.
John Saralski.
Here.
Marshall Savitsky. Steve Carrianen. Thank you.
We have a quorum. Thank you, Kathy. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, statement of committee and hearing procedure and statement of hearing notice. The full statement of committee and hearing procedure document, including directions for individuals wishing to speak at a public hearing to be conducted at this zoning committee meeting, are available in the back of the room next to the agendas for today's meeting. The statement of committee and hearing procedure document is hereby incorporated into the record for this committee meeting. Any public hearing conducted at today's committee meeting has been published as a Class 2 notice in accordance with the Chapter 985 of the Wisconsin statutes in the Sawyer County Record and the Sawyer County Gazette and posted. Okay, so next we'll go to letter D, approval of our previous meeting minutes, September 20, 2024. Has everyone had time to review those, make any comments, edits? Where do we wish to start? Mr. Saralski.
I'd like to make the motion to accept.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Saralski, second by Mr. Savitsky to approve our meeting minutes of September 20, 2024 as presented. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you. Okay, now we'll go to public comment. Please note, comment time is intended for general public comments, not comments related to a specific application before this committee. Each agenda item requiring a public hearing will have its public hearing conducted just prior to the application being considered by this committee. If you wish to speak on a specific agenda item, we encourage you to hold your comments until then. So, public comment. You'll have 3 minutes. I need you to state your name and address for us and come up to the podium. We'll start with Mr. Doug Kurtzwell, please.
Douglas Kurtzwell, 11055W Arrow Road, Hayward, Wisconsin. Couple of items. One is with the fairly recent allowance for small sheds on vacant lots, I guess to facilitate camping out of a small trailer on them. I've been seeing them springing up all over. There's no paperwork. I don't know if it's required or not, but the size often exceeds the 144 that I believe they are supposedly restricted to. Now I know, and a lot of them are these hauled in drop off type of things, prefab. And a number of years ago, I know there was discussion about holding vendors and builders co-accountable with property owners who ran afoul of the ordinance. And I'm just wondering if, I mean, some of these people are telling me that the salesman told them they didn't need no stinking permits. And again, they go ahead and act upon what they were told. But I wonder if maybe some outreach to these vendors or builders of these little prefab units and let them know they're running afoul of the zoning ordinance or they're putting their customers at risk. Just something to consider. And then also, I see once again on the agenda this month is the fantasy item known as multi-dwelling development. And I really don't know, over the last several years, there's been thousands of dollars, county taxpayers' money, spent on legal fees and wasted staff time trying to write something like this. Multi-dwelling developments are already allowed. Commercial C1 zone are R2 with a conditional use permit. I don't know why it keeps coming back again, unless we're trying to create higher densities in the residential R1 and RR1 districts. 1 unit per lot is all that's allowed by the shoreland zone and in the shoreland zone district. And I think this is just somebody's fantasy or fetish. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right, next I have a Linda Zelmer. State your name and address. You have 3 minutes, ma'am. Please.
Linda Zilmer, Edgewater property owner, resident of the village of Birchwood. I want to address the September 30th meeting of some town representatives with the county administrator and the zoning administrator. There were 3 primary things that the towns are really respectfully trying to ask of the county, and it had to do with zoning processes, zoning enforcement, and zoning amendments. And it's not just ruffled feathers. For the county board, I sent all county board members an example of what was applied for as a 12-bedroom house in Edgewater in 2022. And that has now become a commercial 14-bedroom short-term rental. So that is just one example of the many zoning enforcement and permitting issues that I see every day in Edgewater. So I know it's not on your agenda for today, but I think that needs to be addressed because with the zoning ordinance information I sent you, I believe under multi-dwelling development, it requires a conditional use permit and should not be licensed to operate right now. The other thing I want to speak to is an example of a zoning process problem. Well, number one, the Sand Lake Tiki Bar is a perfect one that should be revisited. But the town of Edgewater rezone that's up for today, I want to speak to it now because traditionally when towns have not acted for lack of information, this committee does not open the public hearing. So I would not be able to speak to that. But I attended the Edgewater Town Board meeting. They tabled it for lack of information and because nobody came to speak to the application. So the email that I sent you this morning shows that the zoning agenda and all the supplemental materials were not even posted to the county website until August 11th. And the town board held its meeting on August 8th. One neighbor was present, but did not speak to the application. But the town board chair did state, as is in the draft minutes that you should have a copy of, that they chose not to act for lack of information, and he will not open another commercial or will not open up another driveway permit on Sunset Lane. Well, basically Sunset Lane is all commercial. You have the Birchwood Bobcat Club, which is constant car and ATV, UTV traffic up and down a gravel road. The only properly zoned business was recently rezoned and it's Mama Rappi's Trailside. The neighbor who is there is Larson Construction, and there's also off-the-grid retail. You have commercial that has been operating and has been reported to zoning for years now. So now you have someone who is bringing forward a rezone for another potential commercial use.
Linda, if this is regarding the rezone, you should speak then.
Well, but I don't think you're
Okay.
going to open up the public hearing because the town is going to probably, I would imagine you would.
I am going to open up the hearing when we get to that rezone application.
Okay, but it's just
Okay.
an example of the process problems that the applicant who is here to speak today said this is the first he's hearing of showing up at a meeting. So this has been a problem for neighbors. It has been a problem for applicants. And I don't think until the county and the towns and the affected people sit down and work out a process that things will get any better and you'll continue to have problems and high legal fees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Yes. Steve Binding, yep.
Yep. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Good morning, happy Friday, everybody. Steve Binding, Town of Draper, 8225 Blaisdell Lake Road, Loretta, and also a Town of Draper supervisor. I'm here to address these ongoing and persistent process issues that keep coming up. So last Monday, we had our board meeting, and we had an attendee at the meeting that said she needs help from the town to approve her permit. And we're like, we didn't hear anything from the county. And she goes, no, the county told me I have to come to this meeting. So this is yet another example of not having processes simple enough for people to understand them so they can do what they need to do. In the meantime, towns are dealing with this on a consistent basis whether it's lack of enforcement due to the thousands of now zoning enforcement ordinance violations that are out there in the form of tourist rooming houses that never received conditional use permits, additional dwelling units that never received their proper permitting, additional outbuildings that have never received their proper permits. So we have a zoning department that's busy writing ordinances instead of doing ordinance enforcement. In the last 2 years, I had to publicly request this because these records aren't shown to you as committee members. There have been 7 ordinance violations written. 7. Most of them are for campers, a couple of them are garages. So at some point here, you know, you got to put on your management hat and say, we've got a real big problem here. And I work in IT, so this is kind of what I do for a living. When you start, you got to admit there's a problem. And when you admit there's a problem, you say, what's the problem? Is it process? Okay, well, let's fix some processes. And I've seen a lot of organizations and help them fix business processes and apply technical solutions to those. It doesn't pay to automate waste. It doesn't pay to fix something that isn't right to begin with. So you start off at a level where you say, what are our current processes? And you document those. And to circle us back to our person that was at the town board meeting, I went onto the county website. I can't find the conditional use permit application. I can't find a rezone application. This website is organized in a way that people cannot figure this out. So they call zoning and they take up precious resources of a resource restricted, very constricted area, right? You don't have extra time to be on the phone all day. So
Okay, wrap her up, Mr. Binding. Thank you, though,
Yep.
sir.
I'm working on it.
All right.
So level 0 is the documentation level we're at right now. That means chaos. There is no process. And it shows every month in town board meetings and Sawyer County board meetings. So you guys really got to start representing the electors and the public purse here and get this department straightened up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yep, anyone else for public comment? Andy, we have anybody else online or? All right, if not, thank you all. We'll move on then to number 3, our first rezone application. Jay?
Before we get into rezones, I know I'm not supposed to respond to this stuff, but that individual, Miss Montero, was confused on her dates and times. We had told her that her meeting was to occur for November's public hearing. She never received information because we send out the letters of the dates and times for her November hearings this coming week. So that individual was confused on the dates and times, and Mr. Binding, that's why you have not received anything, because her meeting is scheduled for November, and we gave that information to the town clerk yesterday.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
This is a public hearing in the town of Edgewater, rezone number 24-012, owner Ronald and Laura Zook, part of the southeast 1/4, the northeast 1/4, section 20, township 37 north, range 9 west, parcel 0089342014004. It's part of tax ID 8740. It's 1.85 total acres zoned to agricultural 1. Purpose of the request is to rezone that portion from agricultural 1 to commercial 1 for permitted landscaping business use. This would also include storage and equipment and materials on site, which would be available for purchase. As part of the staff report, again, the applicant is requesting to rezone approximately 1.85 acres of agricultural 1 to commercial 1. The agent of the property, Jesse Miller, would then purchase it and then look to operating a landscaping business on the property to store equipment, but also materials which would be available for purchase. As per the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D, Section 17.6, Parent A, that is what would be a permitted use within a commercial zone district. The proposed rezone would result in conforming lot dimensional requirements. The purpose of the request would then again be have a permitted commercial use within a commercial 1 zone district. We did look to see whether or not we could run this through as a conditional use permit for a landscaping business. However, the aspects of being able to sell materials on sites, whether it's, gravel or mulch or other landscaping materials, that would really establish it as a commercial use. If individuals are coming to the property to purchase that, to load up the back of their pickups or load up a trailer of that material, and then do their own type of landscaping. So that is where it was determined that a commercial zone district would be the only permitted zone district for that type of use. With the additional maps within the packet, this property does abut State Highway 48. Initially, and this again is information that I just learned last week at the town meeting that the town was not in a position to want to allow additional driveway permits off of Sunset Lane. I highly doubt that DOT is going to want to permit a state highway access there. But those conversations have yet to been made with DOT. So those are some additional things that will need to be figured out here as well. The future land use maps and future land use map no buffer for the town of Edgewater shows this as forestry residential. Forestry residential defined by the town would only have one dwelling per 20,000 square feet. The zone districts would be indicated as R1, RR1, and RR2. The request is ultimately to rezone to commercial one as part of the town of Edgewater comprehensive plan. When and whether these areas should be rezoned, it should be consistent with the provisions of the town comprehensive plan and is the discretion of the town of Edgewater and the Sawyer County Zoning Committee on a mutually agreed upon decision. There is additional commercial one zone districts within the area, approximately 715 feet away. A rezone was approved to commercial one back in 2019. So that information would not be viewed as spot zoning. We heard additional comments that there are other established commercial uses occurring on that Sunset Lane already. And according to the NRCS web soil survey, the majority of this area to be used for the landscaping business would be within an existing agricultural field, but that field is not being shown as prime farmland of the state of Wisconsin. As per action of the town board, they did table the action. Motion by Pete to table action on the Ron and Laura Zook rezone application pending further information. Second by Scott, carried 2-0. Ron Zook was not present to answer any questions. The applicant as well as the agent of the case would have received additional correspondence from our office indicating the dates and times of the zoning committee meeting, also as to contact the town board as to when their dates and times of their town board meeting would occur. Pete and Scott made it clear that they would not support a driveway on Sunset Lane for a landscaping business as the road is already overworked with large trucks. The driveway for the business would need to be off of State Highway 48, signed Natalie Clemens, town clerk. There were 6 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners, 0 returned with any additional comments. That is all.
Okay, so Jay, before we open this public hearing, it was tabled at the town level. Did they mention at all that they want to hear it back when they have more information or when?
Yeah, they would. And ultimately, when something is tabled, it's tabled generally to a date to be determined. That date to be determined wasn't specified, but it was to obtain additional information from the applicant. So I would suggest that the town would rehear this in November and that the zoning committee would also make a final decision. Now, you as the zoning committee have multiple options here. You can still open up a public hearing, take in the public comments at this time, and then ultimately still make a decision whether it's in favor, denial, or tabling. Or you can not hold the public hearing and wait to hold the public hearing at a later date. Because we have the applicant here, because we have other individuals that have already made comment on it, it would be my suggestion that you at least open the public hearing, and then you can still open a public hearing next month. Because the town has tabled the decision and because this is not within the shoreland district, the town does have a lot of impacts on the overall decision-making process for this rezone. So I would not recommend that you would make a decision to approve or deny at this point, because the town has not made that recommendation.
And I would agree with Jay, but pleasure of the board. Do you want? Then I would entertain a motion, Ms. Wilson.
I think you could still go into public hearing and get testimony. And then if there are, comments or questions that you have of the applicant, they can gain that information and bring it back to us next month as well during another public hearing process.
I'll make a motion to go into public hearing.
Perfect.
I'll
second that motion.
Okay, motion by Ms. Wilson, second by Mr. Savitsky to go into public hearing regarding rezone number 24-012. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, is the applicant here? Please state your name and address, sir. And
My name is Ron Zook. 16205 West State Highway 48 in Birchwood.
Okay.
I was approached by my friend to purchase the land. I've owned it for years and I was always told I did. Until recently, I did not pursue that because Mr. Jillick was farming it. I didn't want to interrupt him. In the last 2 years, he has not been farming it. We've had some discussion. I think he realizes that I'm not trying to steal land from him. That was an accusation. And I said, no, the line is where it is. I'm just trying to establish where it is. I have not been to the board meeting because I did not realize I needed to be there, and the applicant, the purchaser is here, and he said he would be there, and I think due to some family circumstances, he couldn't be there. I did not know that. So this is the first time I've had to speak. I have no use for the land because it's not big enough for me to build a house on. It's not big enough for me to do anything else with it. I'm pretty sure from things I have learned that I could not get an application for a driveway to go on 48. And I would need to, and I'm willing to go speak to the township board and find out if we can adjust that decision or that feeling at this point. So that's all I have to say. And the purchaser is here if you want to speak to him.
Okay, any questions for the applicant
I
from the
have
board?
one.
Jay, yeah.
You did talk with DOT? DOT was
I
not
have
interested in
never
giving?
talked to DOT.
Okay,
General understanding I have received is that to get a permit onto 48 would be near impossible. It's not for, if I was building a house there, that would be a different consideration. That's what I've understood.
Okay. Board? Nobody? Okay, thank you, Ron. All right, is there anybody out there that would like to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else? Yes, go ahead, sir. State your name and address.
Jesse Miller, Village of Birchwood. I'm looking to purchase the property. One clarification I want to make is I do not plan on allowing any customers to come into that land to purchase material. That land would be solely to build a shop, to store equipment and excess material, but the only people that would be on the property would be myself and my employees. I would not be selling mulch or gravel or anything out of that property, so there would not be that traffic going in and out of that property. As far as the driveway permit, I talked to Pete about it. I didn't hear anything about him wanting to deny a driveway permit. So I guess I would have to revisit that with him. But that might make a difference that I'm not planning on having a mass amount of traffic in and out of the property.
Sure. All right, thank you, Jesse. Okay, anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this? Linda. Ms. Selmer, sorry.
Linda Zilmer, Edgewater property owner, resident of the Village of Birchwood, and I'm not speaking in favor or in opposition. Again, I'm talking to the process. Some of the questions that the town board had and that they couldn't get answered. One was the driveway issue, and they also felt that it's highly unlikely that a driveway would be allowed off of Highway 48. They wanted to know what kinds of materials were going to be stored there. They had no idea whether it was mulch or rock or anything else. And their main concern is frustration over the use of the road. And the reason that the road is overused is because the county has not coordinated with the town on the uses that are allowed along there. So when they talk to heavy trucks, I would assume that it is the construction company that is operating on Sunset Lane. On the weekends, that is almost like a solid cloud of dust for people coming in and out of a retail store that's on that road. The neighbors there have had to put up with all kinds of traffic and dust. And I know that I have raised questions to the zoning department of a number of issues in Edgewater. This was just one of them. And so it speaks to the county doing enforcement and then also considering these applications. So I don't know if 1.85 acres is really sufficient for the type of operation, and maybe the town board will either approve or deny, but there are a lot of questions with this, and it really boils down to the county needing to better inform applicants in the towns and do enforcement.
Thank you. Okay, anyone out there wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Mr. Kurzweil.
Douglas Kurzweil, 11055W Arrow Road, Hayward, Wisconsin. I'm not speaking in favor or in opposition, but I do want to point out an error in the agenda notice. The parcel ID number in here is actually 18 miles south of this property. It should be 008-937, not 934. I don't know if everything on the permit is accurate, but that is in section 20 of Town 37 North Range West. And it says 34 in the paperwork agenda today.
Thank you, Doug. You got that, Jay? All right. Okay, anyone else in opposition? If not, entertain a motion then to come out of public hearing for rezone number 24-012. Motion by Ms. Wilson, second by Mr. Savitsky to come out of public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are out of public hearing.
This is a discussion action for rezone number 24-012. Legal description is previously read into record with the correction that the parcel ID number is 008-937-201404. Rezone requests rezone 1.85 acres of agricultural 1 to commercial 1 for permitted landscaping business use.
Okay, pleasure of the board. Mr. Do we want to go with our? There you go.
I make a
Go ahead, Ms.
motion-
Wilson.
I make a motion to table this discussion until after the town can hear the application.
Okay. motion to- Thank you, Mr. Carrieinen. Motion by Ms. Wilson, second by Mr. Carrieinen to table this or postpone it, Jay, until the town board has time to hear it and act on it.
Yes.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, and I think the date certain would be hopefully November, and I can communicate with the town that if, I would assume that they would pick this back up in November. So at this point, I would anticipate that the date certain would be the November public hearing. And I'm assuming that's what Rebecca's hand is up for.
You good with that?
Thank you, Jay.
You go to that motion then, Ms. Wilson? Just to the,
If the town board can hear it in November. If the town board can hear it in November, then we can also.
wonderful. Mr. Carrieinen? November?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so I have a motion by Ms. Wilson, second by Mr. Carrieinen to postpone this. As I said, until the town board has time, hopefully in November, to hear this and act on it. Okay, and with that, roll call vote, Kathy, please.
John Sarowski. Kay Wilson.
Yes.
Tweed Schuman.
Yes.
Marshall Savitsky.
Yes.
Steve Carrieinen.
Yes.
All in favor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jay, moving on then.
Yeah, this is a public hearing in the town of Meadowbrook, rezone number 24-013, owner Brad and Wenda Whitaker, part of government lot 1, section 31, township 37 north, range 6 west, parcel 0166373155101. 25 total acres zoned forestry 1. Purpose of the request is to change from forestry 1 to agricultural 2 to raise bees and small livestock. Animals will be fenced out of the forest and wetland areas. The shoreline wetland district is not subject to change as part of this request. As part of my staff report, again, the request is rezone 25 acres from forestry 1 to agricultural 2. See attached maps within your packets there. The proposed rezone will result in conforming lot dimensional requirements. The purpose of the request is then to have a permitted use of beekeeping and hobby farming livestock within the proposed Ag 2 zone district. There are no exact details of the hobby farming operation at this time, but it is anticipated that the applicant would still need to meet the requirements of the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances Appendix D, Section 17.5, Parent A, which includes but is not limited to keeping of livestock not to exceed 15 animal units per 40 acres prorated. The applicant also stated that all livestock would be fenced on the property as to not be able to go into the forested or wetland areas associated with the property. Excluding the wetlands, there's approximately 15.5 acres of upland associated with this property. The 15.5 acres would be used to calculate the number of animal units allowed on the property, which would equal 5.8 AUs. 1 AU equaling 1,000 pounds, which would be 5,800 pounds of livestock. According to the USDA, the average live weight of a beef cattle is approximately 1,250 pounds, which would limit the property owner to 4 beef cattle at any given time. The nearest agricultural zoned property is immediately west of this property across Lund Road. And there's another Ag 2 zone property approximately 950 feet to the north. This request would not be viewed as spot zoning. There's mixed residential immediately to the north. The town of Meadowbrook, as part of their comprehensive plan, shows this future land use area as rural preservation. As of June 21st, 2021, there are no future land use definitions available for the town of Meadowbrook. One could anticipate that the rural preservation is intended for areas in the town where they've seen growth in residential development, and they are anticipated to continue to see this activity. In order to protect natural resources bases, woodlands and wetlands, and promote lower density development, a minimum lot size of 5 acres with 1 single family dwelling and no future subdivision of the lot would be appropriate. Ultimately, this property is currently zoned Forestry 1, which requires a 5-acre minimum. The request to rezone to Ag 2 would also require that 5-acre minimum. As per action of the town board, motion was approved. Ronald Buckles, chairman, Ted Thank you. Ted Matazinski and Bill Haynes, all approved. No additional comments. Signed, Jenny Pasnan, town clerk. There were 11 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners. No additional comments or opinions were returned. That is all.
Okay, entertain a motion, board, to go into public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
All right.
I'll
Mr.
second that
Sorolski?
motion.
Motion by Mr. Savitsky, second by Mr. Sorolski to go into public hearing on rezone number 24-013. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is the applicant here? Step up to the podium, please, and name and address, man.
Yeah, I'm Wendell Whitaker, 496 North Lund Road.
Okay.
My husband Brad. Yeah, we just want to be able to use that land. You know, the forest and the farmland is very well delineated. And we don't intend to disrupt the forest at all. The forest is nice because it keeps the lake with, it's a long jaunt to get through the forest to get to the lake. And the animals wouldn't be safe there anyway, so they would be corralled, and we don't ever intend to have, 5,100 pounds. You got to feed them, and we're not raising, feed. So mostly it's for 4-H for the grandkids, and, you want chickens and eggs, and it's just nice when you go in the country and have 25 acres, you kind of expect to do a little of that. I see there's people actually raising bees in town and chickens in towns, right along the driveways. And sometimes I see them out, but we have a lot of frontage too, so we won't have animals out there in the road. There's a lot of land in front, so it would be actually probably, I'm guessing 3 acres, maybe we would actually really use to keep animals on. You want them, close to the house and yeah, that kind of thing.
Mainly for the 4-H for the kids. Our grandkids would love to get into 4-H and we could, grab a couple of hogs and get them into the 4-H and.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions from the board for the applicants? Mr. Sorolski?
As far as it says raising bees and small animals, what small animals?
Mostly chickens.
Chickens?
Yeah, we do want to raise pigs.
Yep.
We won't have very many. I'm 65, he's older. We're not, gonna take on a whole bunch of animals at this point. Like I said, we're not raising, crops to feed them, so we have to feed them ourselves and, buy feed. So it's not gonna be a big presentation at all. It's just gonna be enough for kids and to make me happy. I love the animals, and like I said, it's not safe for them to be in the forest areas anyway. There's fallen trees, and we just want to leave that the way it is unless that's the only thing we would ever do would be to plant more trees there where some have died. Otherwise, we intend to thoroughly keep it the way it is. It's beautiful the way it is.
Sure.
And we do have, a leftover barn there. That was the original barn house of 200 and some acres. There is still the remnants of a large barn that we kind of deal with. It's, the concrete back, the rock, and we have a milk house, and it just seems like it would, work for all those things.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, was there anyone out there that would like to speak in favor of this application? If not, is there anyone out there that would like to speak in opposition to this application? No? Okay. Entertain a motion then to come out of public hearing regarding rezone 24-013.
I'd like to make a motion to come out of public hearing, please.
Mr. Carrianen, okay. Motion by Mr. Sorolski, second by Mr. Carrianen to come out of public hearing, rezone number 24-013. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right.
This
Jay?
is the discussion action of rezone 24-013. Brad and Wenda Whitaker are owners. Legal description is previously read into record. The request is to rezone 25 acres from Forestry 1 to Agricultural 2 or hobby farming operation. The Shoreline Wetland District is not subject to change as part of this request.
Okay. Pleasure of the board. Mr. Savitsky.
I'd make a motion to approve this with Jay's conditions and findings of facts 1 through what, 15? 14?
All right.
As they agree to it.
Thank you.
Well, there would be no conditions for a rezone. But the findings of facts, yes.
Findings of facts. Okay. Thank you, Marshall.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Savitsky, second by Ms. Wilson to approve this rezone request with findings of facts 1 through 15. Did you say, Marshall? 14. Is there any further discussion? Sorry, guys. If not, roll call vote. Kathy, please.
John Sorolski. Tweed Schuman.
Yes.
Kay Wilson. Marshall Savitsky.
Yes.
Steve Carrianen.
Yes.
Thank you. All
Motion
in favor.
carries. Thank you. All right, Jay, conditional use application.
Yes, this is a public hearing in the town of Bass Lake, conditional use permit number 24-018, owner Robert and Carolyn Miles, part of the northeastern quarter of the northeastern quarter, section 29, township 40 north, range 9 west, tax ID 3826. It's lot 5 of CSM number 6167. It's 5.22 total acres zoned to agricultural 1. Permit is desired for the conditional use permit for an accessory structure, which is 8 foot 10 inches by 20 feet 4 inches with 1 foot overhangs, which is 165 square feet, to be used as a tool storage to keep tools and other things out of the elements. This would be per the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D, Section 4.26, Parent 1 with mandatory conditions. As part of my staff report, those mandatory conditions would be that this is the construction of an accessory building on vacant property, may only be allowed by conditional use with town and zoning committee approval. Granting of a conditional use permit will require within 3 years that a principal dwelling and land use permit be applied for and that the principal dwelling is built within that permit timeframe on the same parcel. Failure to build the principal dwelling will result in citations in order for removals of the accessory structure. This is for the after the fact conditional use permit approval. The above mentioned accessory structure has already been placed on the property. If the application for the conditional use permit is approved, the applicant would need to pay double the permit fees for the land use permit. In conversations with the applicant, they were unaware that permits were required for this accessory type of structure on vacant land, but are wanting to do what is necessary to comply with the zoning ordinances. There is the storage shed exemption, which does allow for up to a 144 square foot storage shed on vacant land. This, however, is larger than those storage shed exemptions. The proposed structure is to meet all county zoning setbacks and use requirements. The size of the building is not to exceed, this is per the conditions, as the size of the building is not to exceed 65 square feet and approximately 14 feet in height. I'll go through my potential conditions here real quick. The land use permit be required with a double permit fee for the accessory structure within 1 month of the date of the zoning committee decision, ultimately because the accessory structure is already there. That a land use permit is required for and applied for the principal structure within 3 years of the date of the time of the zoning committee's decision and then built within that permit timeframe. That the accessory structure meet all other Sawyer County zoning and conservation requirements and compliant with all other state and federal laws, including town approval. That the accessory structure not be used for human habitation and that the size not to exceed 165. As by action of the town board, motion was denied. Findings of facts, it is not a structure that qualifies for a conditional use. It is not in compliance with the town or county ordinance. It is contrary to the conditional use and public interest. It is not in compliance with the spirit or the intent of the Sawyer County zoning ordinance and the town of Bass Lake Comprehensive Plan, Section 18. For denial, it does not fall into uses allowed by the zone district. It would be damaging to the rights or others or property values in the area. It is not compatible with the surrounding use. It would have a negative effect on the development of residential dwelling. This is a non-conforming use and would not be unauthorized, or would be an unauthorized accessory structure on vacant land because of size. There were 3 additional notification letters sent out. No additional comments or opinions were returned.
Okay. So I guess board, it's time to open this up for a public hearing. This conditional use permit number 24-018. Looking for a motion. Thank you. Motion by Ms. Wilson, second by Mr. Savitsky to go into public hearing regarding conditional use permit number 24-018. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are now in public hearing. Is the applicant here, please? You could step up to the podium, sir.
Robert Miles, 10330 South Florida Avenue, Hayward, Wisconsin.
Go ahead, Mr. Miles.
My understanding, I was supposed to come to this meeting before I went to the town meeting. I didn't know they had a town meeting to talk about this subject already. And it's been denied already, so is there any process that I can go through to get it reconvened in there?
Did you send them?
Yes.
So you weren't,
Yes.
you weren't in attendance at the town meeting where they denied this.
No,
Were you notified of the meeting?
no. My neighbor notified me he got a letter
Okay.
and he threw it away, he said. He didn't say he had to reply. The neighbor north of me called me.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything more to say regarding this?
I built it on a 20-foot steel trailer, so I thought the mobile was different than standard, so I didn't know I needed a permit.
So this is on a steel trailer frame?
Yeah, double
The
axle.
tires under it or the axles
It's
under it?
on blocks now, they want to
Okay.
tires.
Jay, do you want to comment on?
Looking at our checklist, there was a letter sent to you on September 23rd indicating the dates and times of the meetings and to contact the town of Bass Lake as they'll also be holding a public hearing at their town board meeting. That's to the clerk.
Okay, does the board have any questions or concerns for the applicant?
Yeah, there was also an email sent on Monday, September 23rd to Carolyn Miles, as that was the email that was placed on the physical conditional use permit application. Would have gone to the lyni09@hotmail.com.
So what does he have to do now? Go to the Bass Lake Planning Committee and start over? in
Yeah, because
November?
ultimately, I mean, the zoning ordinance for approval of a conditional use permit for an accessory structure on vacant land be given the 3-year time frame requires town and zoning committee approval. You do not have town approval. So even if zoning committee approved this application, it doesn't move forward, right? I mean, at this point, I guess I'm shooting from the hip here. I'd almost think that the applicant would have to reapply through the town board process.
Where do I find that paperwork or the process?
I may have to confer with legal counsel. I'm not sure how to operate this because.
Okay.
I mean, because the public hearing and notices had gone out, the town heard the case and denied it. I don't know if there's a process for the applicant to go back to the town for reconsideration. I mean, you'd have to speak with the town on that, but I mean, ultimately zoning committee can't move forward on this with a town denial. Rebecca, any thoughts?
Are you online, Rebecca?
I am, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jay is correct that under 4.26, this structure requires approval by the town and the county zoning committee. So technically the county could approve this, but Mr. Miles would not have the approvals required to have the structure. So effectively, without the town approval, this can't move forward. And so in terms of the process, I agree that Mr. Miles should confer with the town in terms of whether it has a review process or a request for reconsideration process. That is not, within the county's purview or jurisdiction to make that determination. So, yeah, I would advise that he speak with the town in terms of the any sort of reconsideration process. In terms of options for the committee right now, you could, well, I'll let Jay speak to options and then I can jump in, Jay, unless you want me to expand now.
Well, I guess, I mean, I don't know if you'd want to table this to a date certain pending a potential reconsideration town meeting, but I mean, I think it would be more appropriate for zoning committee to either approve or deny at this point. If they approve, it doesn't move forward without the town picking it back up. If they deny, that would set a course of motions for me to submit an order for correction removal deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ms. Wilson?
Can I ask, so part of the condition would that he would have to build a resident on that piece of property within 3 years. Was that your intention?
Yes, it is.
How did this come to light to the zoning and the town?
Complaint.
A complaint.
Okay, we are in public hearing. Anything else, Marshall?
No.
Okay. All right, well, do we go through with the public hearing? No, we probably.
Yeah, you still want to
Yeah.
go through with everything, and ask
Then
for
we'll
additional
come to a
comments.
decision. Oh, yeah, Mr. Sralsky.
Do we have any information here why the town disapproved?
Yep,
Mhm.
non-conforming budget.
The findings of facts, it is not a structure that qualifies for a conditional use. It is not in compliance with the town or county ordinance. It is contrary to the conditional use and public interest. It is not in compliance with the spirit and intent of the Sawyer County zoning ordinance and the town of Bass Lake Comprehensive Plan, Section 18. For denial, it does not fall into uses allowed by the zone district. It would be damaging to the rights or others or property values in the area. It is not compatible with surrounding uses. It would have a negative effect on the development of residential dwelling. This is a non-conforming use and would not be unauthorized accessory use structure on vacant land because of the size. And I think the majority of the reasons why they say that is because it is zoned agricultural, the property. Now, the process for building as a residential structure in an agricultural zone district would also require a town approval process. The applicant would submit an application to our office to build a dwelling. We then would forward that application onto the town to be heard at their next town board meeting, in which they would say either yay or nay. We've not had one denied. The town of Bass Lake and some other towns have been putting conditions on those that they are not to be future subdivisions of those lots, and nor could this one be, being that it's just over the 5-acre minimum requirement. But ultimately, I mean, this is for an accessory structure on vacant land to be given a 3-year time frame to build a house. So if the applicant is to build a house, I would hope that the town would still want that individual to be able to build a residential dwelling within that zone district, but a little interesting here for sure. I mean, a permitted use within that zone district would be for agricultural use. I mean, he could turn that into a chicken coop and it would not even have a conditional use permit tied to it. It would be an over-the-counter land use permit. The use right now, though, is that it is a storage building not used for ag use.
Gotcha.
What's that?
Okay, do you have anything else to say then, Mr. Miles?
I guess I don't right now.
Okay, well, we are in a public hearing, so I gotta open it up to the public. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this CUP? Ms. Zelmer?
Linda Zilmer, resident of the town of Edgewater, I'm sorry, resident of the village of Birchwood, property owner in Edgewater. I have been considering building in Edgewater, but to tell you the truth, I don't want to invest any more money in Sawyer County, and it's primarily coming to these meetings. It is interesting, you have two cases here this morning where applicants are confused about the process. In that September 30th meeting, there were actually two things that were promised to the towns. One was a timeline to identify better coordination of information. And the other thing that was promised to the towns was a copy of the notification letter that is sent to neighbors. It's very confusing. It's like 3 or 4 pages. It refers to opinion letters. And even when this information is read at the beginning of hearings, it talks about the number of notification letters that are sent out and none returned. It's still, everybody assumes that there is an opinion
So
letter.
Linda, you're speaking in favor of this
I'm speaking
application?
not in favor or opposed. I am talking about the process.
Yeah,
And in the previous rezone case, this committee exercised what I thought was the right option, was to send it back to the town to allow the town to hear from the applicant. Because you don't know, the town of Bass Lake may have, in light of hearing more, may approve it, or they might apply additional conditions. Now, towards the end of the zoning administrator's explanation, what I have seen in previous cases on ag zoning is when you build a structure, maybe not like this, and I'm not saying to build and not get a permit is right, but it's no longer an accessory structure. It may be the principal structure for an ag use. And I have seen where pole barns have been permitted and they have not really been in agricultural use. They have been storing equipment. And this prior zoning committee members have approved that.
Okay,
So
can you-
figure that out until,
we gotta get going on this application though.
yeah. So
We're not really on the process, we're on this CUP.
And I'm just, in my public input on asking that it go back to the towns for reconsideration.
All right, anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this CUP? If not, anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this CUP? Okay, nobody? All right, board, entertain a motion then to come out of public hearing on CUP number 24-018. Second, Mr. Sorolski,
Second that.
motion by Ms. Wilson, second by Mr. Sorolski, come out of public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Says the
Discussion action.
discussion action, conditional use permit number 24-018, owner Robert and Carolyn Miles, legal description is previously read into record. Request is per section, the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D, Section 4.26, Parent 1, for the placement of an accessory structure on vacant land and be given a 3-year time frame in order to build a primary dwelling.
Okay, pleasure of the board. We've heard the town's denial. Jay and our court counsel has given us ideas on options.
I don't think tabling it for a town decision is the right way to go, because they'd ultimately already denied, and generally when you table, you would have to set a date certain where we wouldn't even know if the town would end up reconsidering this. Maybe Rebecca has other ideas, but I think the more appropriate one is to either approve and then the applicant has to secure approval still with the town, or you deny, but if you go the denial route, make sure you have substantial evidence as to support the decision of a denial, not just because the town denied. Anything else to add there, Rebecca?
Yeah, I would agree with what Jay just said in terms of the option of tabling to a date certain. It really doesn't work because we don't have a date certain. And number two, the process of whether the town would even reconsider is unknown at this point, and I don't think it's appropriate for the county to be advising as to that process. That is for the applicant to determine for multiple reasons, which I can explain if you have questions. Number two, Jay is correct that whatever you do, you must have substantial evidence. If you approve under 5969(5)(e), you must have substantial evidence for any conditions you place on that approval. If you deny, you must have substantial evidence to support that denial. Now, what Jay read as the town's reasons for its denial without having heard what was presented to the town. I can't say for sure whether those items rise to the level of substantial evidence, but they sure seem to go in that direction. I would not advise, if you are going to deny, that you simply base that on the town's denial. You can have a discussion or walk through the reasons that the town articulated and then incorporate those as your own findings. That would be appropriate. And then just a robust discussion as to what substantial evidence this committee is using to render its decision.
Okay, yep, there you go, Ms. Wilson. There are some denial or approval. Thank you, Rebecca. Any thoughts, Mr. Karianen, Mr. Sorolski?
Well, I'm curious about this being on a trailer. I mean, is it a mobile structure to an extent?
I don't think it has mobility to it, but I mean, it would still be classified really as a structure unless it was to get some type of DOT registration, which I don't think it would be able to get. So really looking at it as an accessory structure on vacant land at this point.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Marshall.
Jay, I saw that Robert and Carolyn Miles was on the Bass Lake Planning Committee agenda for October 3rd at 6:30 PM. But he said he wasn't there. If they were to hear that they were gonna build a structure on this property within 3 years, would the Bass Lake Planning Committee move forward with approval on this, or would they still deny it?
I can't speak for them. I've not seen, so we crafted out as an ordinance amendment for an accessory structure on vacant land. This is going back to 2018, 2017. We probably have heard, I don't know, 40, 50 cases of conditional use permits for 4.26 parent 1, building of an accessory structure on vacant land first, getting your finances together, storing materials, taking out a land use permit to build a house, and then building a house. We've only had one issue where an applicant didn't end up building that house in that permit timeframe. They needed several reminders that, hey, we're either going to cite you for building that accessory structure or build a house. They eventually took out a land use permit about 3.5 years after that date and actually built and constructed that house. So out of the 50 that we've had for this type of 4.26 parent 1, they have gone very well. So I wouldn't anticipate that the town would have issues with approving something when an applicant is going to build. This is a little unique in that it's an after the fact. And maybe that was some of the issue that the town had, is that, this wasn't requested initially. It was already placed out there. Now they're asking for forgiveness after the fact. But I can't speak to what the town would end up deciding. But there again is, you do have the option of potentially approving this application with a condition that it also be granted town approval. And then it really defers back to the town to see how they can reconsider this motion or action to potentially get to approval. If they don't get approval from the town, it's dead ended, even with your approval at this point.
What happens after 3 years and they don't build a home?
Order for correction for removal of the structure, and that would probably be within like a 1 month, 2 month time frame where, hey, you agreed to the conditions as part of the conditional use permit application. You haven't taken out a permit to build the house, nor have you built the house. Now that shed's got to go. And if it's not going to go within a month after that 3-year time frame, well, then we'll see you in court with the citation amount and a daily forfeiture if the judge rules in the zoning department's favor, and then you get tacked with a $50 per day every day past final judgment. So all of a sudden it becomes very expensive to keep that there.
We're out of public hearing, right?
We are.
We're in discussion action, and the town used these denials 1 through 5 on their decision that it doesn't fall into uses allowed by the zone district. It would be damaging to the rights of others and property values in the area. It is not compatible with surrounding uses. It would have a negative effect on the development of residential dwelling. This is a non-conforming use and would be an unauthorized accessory structure on vacant land because of its size. All those true? From the town, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you read them from
Yep.
the town there. Yeah.
This is reasons from the town.
And I did speak with the Plan Commission Chair, Bon Sutton on this. I did tell him that it is for 4.26 parent one, that it is for an accessory structure vacant land, 3-year time frame to build a dwelling. Some of those reasonings don't seem like that was the case, though.
They also state that it is not in compliance with the town or county ordinance.
It would be if they were granted the conditional use permit.
Oh,
but
okay. All right, gentlemen, anybody?
Well, in my opinion, they have a couple strikes against them. It's after the fact and it's too big. So we're gonna give somebody permission to do this? I'm not in favor of it.
Would that be a motion to deny then, Ms. Wilson? Okay. Mr. Sorolski?
I guess I've got a real problem with the fact that we can, even if we approve this, approve it or deny it, it's the town of Bass Lake that has made the decision. If we were to approve it, it still wouldn't go. So we're kind of,
right, even if you were to
It's
approve
kinda
that right
stuck.
now, it would not go. But there may be an avenue for the applicant to go back to the town for reconsideration. I don't know the town's process on that.
and the 3-year timeframe still would pertain.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to deny this application. Based on it would be damaging to the rights of others and property values in the area. It's not compatible with surrounding uses and it's a non-conforming use with an unauthorized accessory structure on vacant land and yeah.
Okay, so I have a motion to deny by Ms. Wilson.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, second by Mr. Savitsky. Is there any further discussion? If not, Kathy, roll call vote. Motion is to deny.
Got it. Kay Wilson. Marshall Savitsky. Tweed Schuman.
Yes.
John Saralski. Steve Carriennen.
Yes.
All in favor.
Public hearing that's on Sand Lake.
Original plat, lots 4 through 6 and 7 of block 7. Tax IDs 27192 and 27193. It's 0.505 total acres, zoned residential 1. Permit is desired for an in-home occupation for a 1-chair stylist salon that occupies less than 25% of the floor space in the dwelling. This is per section 17.1, parent B, parent 6 of the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D. As per my staff report, again, the applicant is requesting to operate a 1-chair salon within their existing residence. The space will occupy less than 25% of the existing floor area, which is laid out as a approval as a conditional use permit process. The applicant has no plans for additions onto the residence at this point. Parking will be available within the existing driveway and no street parking will be necessary as per the applicant's statement. As part of this request, The applicant will need to obtain approval from the Stone Lake Sanitation District. This property is actually on municipal wastewater treatment as part of the Stone Lake Sanitation District. At the time that the staff report was created, we didn't have any of that information from the Stone Lake Sanitation District. As of 2 weeks ago, we did receive information back from I guess you call it the president or whoever is operating the Stone Lake waste treatment plant, which is John McHugh in conjunction with Jody DeBus, who is the secretary treasurer. To whom it may concern, the Stone Lake Sanitation District has no conditions or concerns in regard to the Cassandra Gudis for installing a one-chair beauty salon in her home. The chemicals are more astringent than the 2 other salons that they already have within the sanitation district. There are no special permits or requirements from the sanitation district for this to move forward. That was signed by Kelly Knopp, a board member for that Stone Lake Sanitation District, also Judy DeBus. And I did receive additional email communication from Mr. John McHugh, who's kind of the plant operator. As part of potential conditions is laid out in my staff report, the hours of operation be by appointment only, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That was actually obtained and relayed by the applicant herself. Obtain licensing requirements from DADCAP. The Stone Lake Sanitation District approval, which we do have. So I don't think you need to reiterate that condition because we already have it. Must meet all signing ordinance requirements for the Sawyer County zoning ordinance, and that all other town, county, state, and federal laws are followed. Action of the town board, motion was approved. Robert Langham, chair, Michael Ruzio, supervisor, George Shedby, supervisor. No one objected, agreed with conditions, no objections. Elaine Nyberg, clerk. There were 19 additional notification letters sent out. Out of those 19 additional notification letters, no additional comments or opinions were received.
Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion then to go into.
Mr.
public hearing.
Chairman, I need to recuse myself on this issue.
Ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Okay, entertain a motion to go into public hearing on CUP number 24-019.
I'll make that motion.
Second it.
Second by Mr. Carrianen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, is the applicant here, please? Cassie, right? Cassandra, sorry.
Cassandra Goodis, 5834 N Frost Avenue, Stone Lake, Wisconsin. Yes, so I am wanting to open up one stylist salon in my home. I would be offering hair and nail pedicure services in there as well. Really nothing more to add than what the description already, entailed. Absolutely, yes. No employees for me.
Favor of this. Anybody out there wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. Not, entertain a motion to come out of public hearing, Marshall.
Motion.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. We are now in discussion action.
Discussion action. Rebecca, I see your hand up. You got something to state? You're muted.
Yes, real quick. I believe the chair's microphone is off, so I just heads up on that.
Thank you, Rebecca.
When the committee gets into its discussion, and if it's considering the possible conditions, I would just recommend that you add to number 2 in the staff report, obtain licensing requirements from DADCAP. I would add any licensing requirements from the Department of Safety and Professional Services. I believe that DISPUS is going to have to render some licensing approvals. So even though that may be captured in condition number 5, I think it's appropriate to add it to number 2 just to be more specific. That's it.
Sure. Thank you, Rebecca.
All right, as part of the discussion action for conditional use permit number 24-019, owner Cassandra Gudis, legal description is previously read into record. The request is per section 17.1, parent B, parent 6 of the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D, to occupy a in-home occupation for one chair stylist that occupies less than 25% of the floor area. As per potential conditions as listed in my staff report, hours of operation be by appointment only, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Obtain licensing requirements through other state agencies such as DACCAP and Department of Safety and Professional Services. The Stone Lake Sanitation District approval, which we do have. All signage meet the Sawyer County zoning ordinance signage, and then all other county, state, and federal laws are followed.
Okay. Thank you, Jay. Pleasure of the board. Mr. Carriainen.
Move to approve.
Okay.
With conditions and findings of facts,
Yes,
as stated in my staff report.
exactly.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sorolski.
I second it.
All right. Motion by Mr. Carriainen, second by Mr. Sorolski to approve CUP number 24-019 with the findings of facts listed by Jay. No, the conditions in the staff report from Jay and the finding of the facts 1 through 14. Correct, gentlemen? Okay. Kathy, with that, roll call vote.
Tweet Schuman.
Yes.
John Saralski. Steve Carrianen.
Yes.
Marshall Savitsky. I won't call Kay's name.
No,
She's not here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do mark that on.
Oh, recused.
Yep, she recused.
Okay, Jay, CUP number 24020.
Conditional, this is a public hearing for conditional use permit number 24-020 in the town of Ojibwa. Real Speedy LLC, agent Lynn and Zach Runge, part of the northwest quarter of section 1, township 38 north, range 6 west, tax ID 20304 at 17.4 total acres zoned agricultural 1. Permit is desired for the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D, Section 17.4, Parent B, Parent 5 for a kennel for small domestic animals. Also Section 17.4, Parent B, Parent 25, as the kennel is to act as an animal rescue facility, including boarding, grooming, and veterinary services. As part of my staff report, again, Section 17.4, Parent B, Parent 25 would be that whether or not the zoning committee finds that a boarding, grooming, and veterinary service is a like or similar use as to a kennel, which is listed as section 17.4, parent B, parent 5. So again, a kennel is an authorized use by conditional use. You then have whether or not zoning committee determines that a kennel is a like or similar use to a boarding, grooming, and veterinary services acting as a animal rescue facility. Again, the request is for an animal rescue facility. It would be called Saving Grace. The animal rescue facility would consist of an office, a bathroom, a dog washing station, a kennel, and a kennel operation. There would be plans for a fenced-in dog park area and the potential of a boarding program with potential future veterinarian services in the future. They would be open to the public during normal business hours from Monday through Friday. The building proposed would be approximately 50 by 110. But again, this is in the very early stages of the proposal, and the use of an animal rescue facility, it was what is being requested as the CUP, as the land is actually under a purchase agreement pending the conditional use permit. Kennel is defined by the Sawyer County zoning ordinance as any premise wherein any person engages in the business of boarding, breeding, buying, letting for hire, training for a fee, or selling of dogs and cats. Furthermore, a kennel operation must meet the requirements of the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D, Section 6.8 for the land area, which the lot in question does meet those requirements. As per potential conditions that as I've laid out in my staff report, and again, with just being the proposed use, there really is no plans for what the building, might come to be, but I'm not sure if zoning committee would be concerned about the buildings out there as long as they would meet all other setbacks. It's really the use that you'd be looking at for the animal rescue facility. But they would need to obtain licensing requirements through DATCAP, DSPS, and any other state agencies that would require permission for a veterinarian service and or kennel. Meet all other Sawyer County zoning sign ordinance requirements, that the entrance to be located off of Dorshide Road, possible vegetation screening requirements, and this should be something that we further have committee discussion on during those processes. Is that kennels tend to potentially have additional noise concerns, so additional vegetation or buffer zone leaving requirements of vegetation should be further discussed. All other county, state, federal laws are followed, and that the conditional use permit for a potential kennel animal rescue facility to stay with the property and not just the owner. It is anticipated that if a facility is built in the future and it's built as a kennel, you would think that a new owner coming in is going to still operate that kennel or, veterinary service operation. They're not going to, change it to, some other type of use. So this would be one where you wouldn't just want to have the cup go with the owner. You'd really want to have it go with the property. By action of the town board, motion was approved. Randy Niederkorn, Greg Hambrin, Robert Granica. Going to be a good fit for the community, signed Jill Pettit, town clerk. There were 5 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owner. One property owner did submit additional comments in the form of a objection. I believe those were sent to the committee, but it is semi-short, so I will read it into record. I'm contacting you about the proposed dog rescue site in the town of Ojibwa. I have land and a cabin across the road from this site. I come up to relax, hunt, and enjoy the peace and quiet. You have a very nice walking trail to the west of this site that people like to walk and observe nature and wildlife. I don't want to listen to barking dogs and noise that it will cause, let alone the effects it will have on the wildlife. I really hope the board will give this great consideration to the negative impacts this would have on the area. Thank you, Jim Jensen. That is all.
Okay. Entertain a motion then to go into public hearing. CUP 24020. Mr. Saralski.
I'd like to make the motion to go into public hearing.
Sir Marshall.
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are now in public hearing. Is the applicant here, please? Come state your name and address, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Lynn Runge and I live at 5840 West Strom Road in Winter. I really don't have anything additional to add to what Mr. J has said, other than the lady that actually lives across the road from 70 actually was at the meeting and she was very happy to know that this is what our plans were with the future planning for the property. So the lady that actually lives there full time was completely fine with it. So I guess that's what I would like to add.
Okay.
And if you have any questions for me.
Is there any, as Jay mentioned, is there any plans for vegetation around the facility to
Yeah.
address any?
Absolutely. So my husband kind of drew up this little lovely sketch, I believe. If you, should I bring it to you?
Sure, yeah, let's look at it. You don't have that sketch?
No.
So
Thank you.
really, we would be only clearing for the building. The dog park would have many, many trees. Just leave it habitable and natural. And then the fencing area would be semi-cleared, just so that the dogs could fully run. And that middle section is the building, and then that is where the parking is. But he knows more.
Yes,
Okay,
we
okay.
want to see we'll remove smaller trees. And it would be nice to kind of have the dog park so people could see it, but we want it to look like a nice park with big trees. So we're not clear cutting,
Sure.
And this is the neighbor that said she was fine with it, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's hand that around us. Does the board have any more questions for the applicant?
Pardon? Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Are we able to keep that map then?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes. And again, it's just kind of a rough sketch, I guess.
All right, if the board has nothing more for the applicant, Mr. Carrion.
Your plans are a bit fuzzy right now, as I understand it.
Yeah.
You don't see this possibly turning into a puppy mill, do you?
No, so I, to give you background on myself, I actually went to school to be a certified vet tech. So I have my license and I've, have had them for about 9 years now. So I've worked in the veterinarian field, with emergency as my major. And Saving Grace is new. We established in 2022, but I have ran a county facility for 3 years. Altogether, I've been rescuing for about 7 years now. And no, due to Wisconsin is very strict on laws and regulations. So we are inspected as well. So our inspector would not allow that. The biggest thing is we're foster based right now. So we're looking for a building to help us so we don't have to rely solely on those fosters anymore. And that's just due to us growing, just expanding what our fosters are able to do. And with that, we would just want a dog park just for local people to come and have their dogs come, which is nice. And then because I've worked at different clinics, I've gained relationships with veterinarians. And one of them stated that if the building was able to be functional, they would come and offer a low-cost spay and neuters for the community, which would also be beneficial. So not just for Sawyer County, but Rusk County. So I feel like that would be beneficial for this area as well, due to the overpopulation. Yeah.
And have you talked with Sawyer County Animal Control about this project?
I have not, due to us being not, I don't know the word. We're not connected with Sawyer County in that aspect, like the Hayward Humane Society. We are a separate entity running full nonprofit. So I do have my 501c3 license as well. But the Sawyer County, a person from Sawyer County did reach out in regards to helping Sawyer County. So moving forward, if we were able to get financial help, that would also be something turned to beneficial for Sawyer County.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, anybody out there wishing to speak in favor of this CUP? Yes. Mr. Kurtzwell?
Douglas Kurtzwell, 11055W Arrow Road, Hayward, Wisconsin. I've just got a question, maybe for you folks, actually two of them. You're talking about a 5,000 square foot building roughly, right? 50 by 110.
Sure.
How many dogs do you look forward to having on the scene at a time?
Sure. Do I just answer? Or do I
Sure, well, you could come up there, yep.
This is just a rough estimate. We don't have, like we'd have to get a building permit and everything. But it's that large because we would help folks with boarding their personal dogs.
Sure.
As well as, I couldn't tell you a number just because, like right now in foster, we probably only have 10 dogs in foster care. So it wouldn't necessarily be packed full. But again, if people need their dogs boarding due to emergency services, we would be there for that.
Yeah, okay, so I mean like 20 or 200 or somewhere in between. I mean,
This is the fuzzy area that the
Sure.
was talking about.
Okay.
Just because we're in the beginning stages, and if there was a limit on it, then there's a limit on it. But the dogs don't necessarily like just randomly bark all the time. Like the gentleman who asked it not to be passed. Like if anyone has personal dogs, your dogs bark when someone's knocking at the door, they come into the drive, so.
Adult, face to
Sure.
face with.
Okay,
thousands
Doug,
of
we gotta
dogs.
move this along, sir, so.
Okay, so, in the
You're in
kennel,
favor of this application, so.
not in favor, not against, and I'm just trying to figure something out. And again, in the licensing process or whatever, is there occupancy stages in kennel licenses?
Yes, there
And-
is, and it's like due to the size of the kennel versus a dog. So one, if there was 10 kennels, you could only have 10 dogs unless they were small dogs.
Right.
So there is, as I was doing research and running the other county shelter, you do have to have a per size kennel per dog. So if you have a large dog, you can only have one dog in that size appropriate kennel.
Okay.
Okay, we gotta move on, Doug. Is there anybody, thank you, sir. Is there anybody to speak in opposition to this CUP? No, if not, entertain a motion and come out of public hearing.
That
Mr. Savitsky, second by Ms. Wilson. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. J, discuss an action, CUP 24-020.
Yes, in discussion action for that CUP just listed, this is in the town of Ojibwa, owner Real Speedy LLC with the agents of Lynn and Zach Runge. Legal description is previously read into record. Permanent desired for the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D, Section 17.4, Parent B, Parent 5 for kennel for small domestic animals, and Section 17.4, Parent B, Parent 25, as that the kennel would act as an animal rescue facility, including boarding, grooming, and veterinary services. As per my staff report and potential conditions as for approval, that would be to obtain licensing requirements through DAGCAP, DSPS, and any other state agency requiring permitting for veterinary services and kennel operations, that signage meet all signing ordinance requirements, that the entrance to be located off of Dorshide Road. We should still discuss possible vegetation screening requirements. We did see a potential proposal of where the dog park area was to be. Now ultimately, the applicant stated they wanted to have people to be able to view the dog park off of State Highway 70. So I mean, there wouldn't be really vegetation requirements if you wanted to be able to see, oh, hey, there's a dog park. Let's go down that road and go let our dogs run. But something certainly to discuss as the committee members, that all other town, county, state, and federal laws are followed, and that the conditional use permit would run with the property and not just with the applicant. Another possible condition you may want to add here would be the maximum number of dogs allowed at the facility. I would not have any type of suggestion as to what that number might be, but it's something that you may want to further discuss during your discussion action portion.
Okay. Ms. Wilson.
Jay, is veterinary services allowed in egg?
So interestingly enough, when I look at the zoning ordinance in the Egg 2 zone district, it does show up as veterinary services within the Egg 2. Now, we don't see a lot of requests for veterinary services. I would assume that veterinary services was also supposed to be in the Egg 1 zone district as well. It's weird that it would be in the Egg 2, but not in the Egg 1. Egg 1, you generally have even larger tracts of land. What we do have in both of them is kennel operations. And the other thing we do have in the Egg 1 is zoning committee's determination on whether or not another listed conditional use is a like or similar use. And that is kind of that, we'll call it the catch-all, where if you as the zoning committee member sees that a kennel is being a like or similar use to a veterinary service facility. And you should make that determination, right? Again, interestingly enough, though, it does show up in the Egg 2 zone district, but doesn't show up in the Egg 1. And I do think that that was probably a misstep when this ordinance was originally created. And the Egg 1 and Egg 2 zone district did some kind of rewrites. So this is going back 10 plus 12, 15 years ago when previous zoning administrator kind of reorganize some of the egg 1 and egg 2, and I think that was probably missed at that point.
Okay. Anyone else from discussion action? Jay did mention some good points regarding maximum number of dogs and vegetation. Yes, Marshall.
There's a vet center or something off of Stonehill Road, south of K on 27. I wonder if they have max amount of dogs they can have there. I know we
They
having-
weren't as a vet, that is as a kennel. I know which one you're talking about for Hershey's.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd have to give me a little bit. I do believe they were set a max number of the kennel. And if you give me a couple minutes while you have additional discussion, I can find that.
Okay. And then another question for the applicant. Do you have any idea on a maximum number of animals? Something that the board could go off of.
So, I can't answer that, but that's why we made the building project as large as we thought feasible. We're not gonna house 200 dogs there. I think if you run it along the same lines as the Northwoods Humane Society, I'm not sure what their capability is of animals for their building. But Saving Grace does a lot of mom and puppies from kill shelters because they're the number ones that get euthanized. So our numbers kind of get skewed a little bit because one mom could have 10 puppies or one mom could have 2 puppies. So that's kind of, I don't know about setting a number, just, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question.
sorry.
So,
Marshall.
I mean, with the kennel and stuff, so.
You're thinking 50?
No, he's just throwing out a number, but if we were to, sure, potentially, with someone boarding their dogs with us and the rescue side. So it's gonna be 2 different things. My rescue on one side and then kenneling dogs basically on the other side. So, if there was 20 kennels on each side, probably 40 dogs, roughly, who needs their dog boarded. It's not going to be Monday through Friday. Usually people are just out of town a couple days a week. So it's like a revolving door, have you? It's not like they stay long or, I don't know. I feel like I'm talking in a circle at this point.
Yeah, and I think the committee, and this is me speaking for the committee, they generally would like to see what you think your max capacity would be. If your max capacity says we can't, we're already stuffed as dogs as it is, we can't take any more.
Sure.
What is that number? Is it 100? Is it 75? Is it 50? Because a max number at least sets a threshold to say, hey, you're at max capacity, you can't take any more dogs in.
I would say that would be 50 then. My husband is confident in the numbers,
Not to
so
exceed 50.
I'll say 50. Yeah. They're puppies. Yeah.
Right, and this would be for boarding and for sheltering.
This would, sure. Boarding and sheltering. Yes.
Could you just say max of 50 and then if they need more later on or they add on, they can go to the township for more? Leave it up to the township?
You'd almost really want to rerun it as another cup then if they're going to get larger than a 50 dog operation. That's a lot of dogs.
It's a lot
Yeah.
of dogs.
Yeah. And it's a lot of dogs again because of the moms with puppies and we house, you can't adopt out until they're 8 weeks old. So that would take up room and space on the rescue side. And if people need their, truly we did the kenneling side because recently we lost an adopter to breast cancer. And it would have just been nice to be able to help her through her passing days. So that's why.
Mr. Sorolski.
I guess I would suggest now, if you're talking 50, I grew up in a kennel.
Okay.
We own kennels out of state. I wouldn't hold it at 50. I would at least go to 65 because 50, say your kennel, the business part of it
Sure.
took off. You've got 20 people dropping their dogs off for a big weekend.
Okay.
And you happen to have 3 mothers come in with 10 pups apiece.
Yeah.
Then you're treading on thin ice and you don't need that.
Sure.
It's not gonna be, I don't think it would be a deterrent for them to go, whether it's 50 or if it's 65. I think it would be a smarter thing to think ahead
Yeah.
to down the road.
Yeah, and you're right. That's why I can't come up with a number, right? I just,
Right.
I'm responsible and I want to show that I'm responsible. We care.
You're not
for
gonna
our
have 200 dogs.
Yeah,
there.
no, not at all.
And the puppy mill thing is not gonna.
No. So I think, and I should have asked Hayward Humane Society how many dogs they have theirs to be more prepared for this.
Right.
But you are right. If, even if one person has 2 dogs and you say they're dropping off, that could potentially get us over that 50. So I don't think limiting it on the number. We're just going to be responsible and caring for people's dogs. So
Sure.
we're not going to go over the top at all. But we do want to care for not only people's personal pets, but for our rescue as well.
Sure, okay.
And I'd
Mr.
like to
Sorrelski.
also just add that I live about 3 miles down the road
Oh,
in winter, and I've heard of
you,
them with the fostering the pups, and people are just fantastic. So
Okay,
everybody is very successful.
thank you. Thank you.
okay. I'm entertaining a motion then, Mr. Sorrelski, if you're there, sir.
Going back to Marshall's question that he asked, so that other kennel operation that's on Stonehill Road in the town of Bass Lake, they were approved not to exceed 10 breeding females at any given time. Now that breeding female may have 1 pup, they may have 15 pups, but 10 breeding females is what they were set as their max. Now that was just as a kennel operation, basically for a breeding operation. This is obviously a little bit more, mixed use with, sheltering and boarding. So I think as Mr. Zaralski, stated, if 65 is a max number to set, that would be something you'd want to include in a condition.
And
Yes.
another question is, you're also gonna be taking care of some cats?
So right now we do not do cats and I'm highly allergic to cats. But potentially, if someone, right now, no, that's not in the works to do cats. Just because I'm allergic to them.
Okay,
So it would just be strictly dogs.
thank you, Lynn.
Yes.
What does the board think? Mr. Sorrelski?
I'd like to make the motion to approve the CUP 24-020 with the provisions of 65 as the maximum.
Okay.
And forget about the rest of it.
Yep.
1
And,
through 6, yes.
Yeah, so one of those conditions though, that you'd want to, I guess, reiterate, and I know you made a motion here, would be the potential vegetation screening. Now, if you're not requiring any vegetation screening, you don't want to list number 4 in there, but I did have it in there.
I guess I got a question then on that part. I go to Eau Claire a lot and there's right along Highway 29, there is a dog park that doesn't have a tree in it, right alongside the highway. So is the buffer necessary, is what I'd like to know.
All right, and that's why I put it in for potential discussion as basically an earmarked topic so that you guys could discuss it. I would assume that, a logging truck driving down the road, going 60 miles an hour is going to be the same decibel level as a dog barking that's several hundred feet further into the woods.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about the vegetation. That helps your motion.
Okay.
So you would eliminate condition number 4 as part of Jay's staff report.
I just don't think it's needed. If it was
Okay.
there, that'd be fine. If you decided you want to put it in, but I don't know that you would want it. I think you'd want people to see
Yeah,
what's going on there.
Okay, I got a motion by Mr. Sorolski. Kathy, you got it, including the staff, possible conditions 1 through 6, excluding number 4. And then the findings of facts.
And including
Jen.
the 65 dog max.
Yep.
I just have a question about the map.
Just a second, Lynn,
Oh,
one second.
sorry.
Including the findings of facts, John 1 through 14. Got that? Okay, looking for a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a second. Go ahead, Lynn. I'll hear it now.
Okay, so I'm just, for the 65, I'm just trying to think in my head, so that could potentially be 3 moms and boarding side, correct? Or,
The 65 would be really for the boarding and the kennel.
okay, like,
Now, if you're gonna have dogs as day use in the dog park, fine. If you're gonna have dogs coming in for veterinarian services, fine. It's the boarding and the kennel op as a max of 65.
okay,
All
okay.
right,
Yeah.
we have a motion by Mr. Sorolski, second by Mr. Savitsky to approve CUP number 24-020 with Kathy, your possible conditions, right?
Got him? Yep.
Yep, and findings of facts 1 through 14. Is there any
Yes.
further discussion? If not, roll call vote, Kathy, please.
Marshall Savitsky.
Yeah.
Kay Wilson. John Saralski.
Yeah.
Tweed Schuman.
Yes,
Steve Carriennen.
Yes.
All in favor.
motion carries. All right, Jay, we're moving on then to number 5, final plat review.
May I request a 5-minute recess?
You will. 5-minute recess is granted, so we'll return at 10:16. Can you pause, Andy, please? It's 10:16. We are back in session number 5, Jay.
Yeah.
Final plat review.
Final plat review. This is a public hearing for Pinecone Pond LLC for the final county subdivision plat proposal for a 15-lot proposal. This is located in the town of Lenroot, owner John Balmers. This requires zoning committee acceptance, conditional acceptance, or rejection. As per my staff report, again, this is for the final plat review. We are in compliance with the zoning ordinance requirements there. I myself have looked at the final plat and have conditionally approved it. All roads as part of the subdivision are to remain private roads. Previously, the zoning committee did conditionally approve the preliminary plan. They conditionally approved upon approval of a DNR stormwater management plan. That DNR stormwater management plan has been submitted to the DNR, but has not been finalized or approved. With that information though, again, the committee could conditionally approve the final plat pending the approval of the stormwater management plan. Basically, the acting chair would sign off on the plat, but I myself, the zoning administrator, would not be signing off on the plat until I receive the stormwater management. Now, we do have the plan that was submitted for the stormwater management in your packets. But again, as per the staff report, you can conditionally approve pending the stormwater management plan, and then I myself would sign off on it. Or ultimately, you would have to grant an extension to the applicant for submission of the final and then table the decision until next month when the final approval of the stormwater plan is anticipated. Ultimately, if you table this because the stormwater isn't approved, the applicant's gonna have to come back in, we're gonna have to republish this in the paper. My recommendation would be that you would conditionally approve, if you are wanting to approve at all, conditionally approve pending the stormwater plan. And again, I wouldn't sign off on it and take it down to recording until we got that DNR sign off. We have the plat and the final plat proposal. The applicant and surveyor on the project are both, well, one's online, one's here in person. This is the land area north of KOA, for those that don't remember this a couple months ago when you first saw it. And I have the 15 lot final plat proposal up online. The applicant also owns several lots along Hageberg Road that are part of a separate CSM process, not part of the subdivision. There are a couple houses that he is already building on there. And because this right now is one larger lot, we have approved one land use permit to build a dwelling on this original parcel. That one is proposed on lot 15. So if the plat doesn't get approved, he still has a permit to build a house on the large lot itself. If it's approved, we then move permits to lot 15 and the applicant would start building additional houses and most likely trying to get 2 to 3 additional foundations in this fall, winter still. This is as a public hearing, so we would open it up as a public hearing and then have discussion action.
Okay. So then I'll entertain a motion to go in a public hearing for the final plat review.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Mr. Savitsky, second by Kay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We are now in public hearing.
Oh, one other thing I should mention, the town did approve as well. I didn't state that and I should get that in the record. Action of the town board, motion approved, Gordy Christian's chair, Michael Banjo supervisor, Jason Schustrom supervisor, Brent Danielson supervisor. There were 10 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners. We have not received any additional opinions or comments from those notifications.
Okay, John, you want to step up to the podium, sir?
Yep.
Name and address for us, please.
My name is John Volmers. Address is 10415 North McLean Road, Hayward, Wisconsin. So what we have going on, the DNR permit, so I used a local engineering agency. They've had some staffing issues. It's taken quite a bit longer. The permit for DNR has been submitted per an email, which I have from Tegan at the DNR yesterday. She was unable to meet with them yesterday to complete the stormwater permit. They are meeting with Heather on Monday to, let me see, to ensure we're on the same page before getting things wrapped up for issuance. Now the issue we have at the moment, frost is coming in. If it keeps on getting pushed, Xcel Energy charges frost charges for everything. The cost just keeps on going up and up. It's going to get issued. There's no question on that from what I understand. We've done everything. We've had the wetlands delineated, had all that approved from the DNR. We're just waiting for some final modeling of how the stormwater pits are or whatever they do. I don't really know. But what I'm asking for, I guess, is what Jay was saying, is to conditionally approve the final plat pending the stormwater approval. Like I said, I should have that as early as Monday. If not, it'll be next week.
Okay, so you feel pretty confident that the stormwater management plan is going to be approved?
99% sure. I feel confident. So I cannot foresee anything. The DNR, as per what Jay has seen, already has said that the man-made pond is a man-made pond and is exempt. So there's not going to be any water issues or anything weird going on. It's just the finalizing of however things flow. And I do have a copy of the email from Tegan here if you guys want, and Heather from NWBE. So whatever you guys would like to see, I'm happy to show you.
So initially, Jay, this was turned down as a campground?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
circa like 4 years ago, there
Yeah.
was a push for a campground expansion on that same parcel. That property then had sold and purchased by Mr. Volmers or
Yep.
Pinecone Pond LLC. And now Pinecone Pond LLC is requesting for a 15 lot subdivision.
Got it. Okay, board, any other questions for the applicant then? No? Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, is there anybody here that would like to speak in favor of this plan? No? Anybody here wish to speak in opposition to this? No. Okay, board, Entertain a motion then to come out of public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion by Marshall, second by Kay, to come out of public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. We are now out. Jay, is this discussion action?
Discussion action for Pinecone Pond final plat approval for 15 lot subdivision proposal.
Okay, in the meantime, is the surveyor online too then? Somebody said?
Yes, yep, Mr. Gould is on.
Is there any questions for the surveyor, anyone? Mr. Gould, you feel pretty positive as well, sir, that this stormwater management plan will be approved?
Confirm that you can hear me?
Yep.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. That's not I believe it is, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not my profession, but NWB has been hired and has had these passed in multiple projects, so that's my answer.
Thank you. All right, pleasure of the board.
I move to conditionally approve the application pending DNR approval of stormwater management plans.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Carrion and Marshall.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second to approve, conditionally approve. You got that, Kathy? The final plat review. Pinecone Pond LLC. Okay, is there any further discussion from the board? If not, roll call vote, Kathy.
Kay Wilson,
Yes.
John Starolski,
Yes.
Tweed Schuman,
Yes.
Marshall Savitsky.
Yes.
Steve Carriennen,
Yes.
all in favor.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, moving on,
Plat review.
yeah, so this is a plat review. So this request is from the Preserve Phase 3. They are requesting an extension as far as Phase 3 is concerned. This is for 19 lots consisting of 5 additional outlots. This is located in the town of Round Lake. Owner Jeremy Hill as the Preserve Phase 3. As per the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix C, Section 5.3, the final plat shall be submitted to the zoning committee within 180 days of the preliminary acceptance unless this requirement is waived by the zoning committee. With the conditions that were placed on the property for a wetland delineation and a stormwater management plan approved by the DNR, the applicant will be unable to have Phase 3 ready within the 180 days. Wisconsin Chapter 236.25 would have a default timeframe that the final plat is to be recorded within 36 months of the preliminary approval. I myself, the zoning administrator, recommends defaulting the timeframes of Phase 3 to the specified Wisconsin statutes. Again, our county ordinance says that they need to be submitted within a 180 days from the prelim. Chapter 236 Wisconsin statutes actually listed as 36 months. And again, with those conditions, it would be my recommendation that you would grant the extension for the 36-month timeframe from prelim acceptance to final plat approval. Phases 1 and Phase 2 are scheduled to be heard in November and submitted to the zoning committee within 180 days.
Okay. And is the applicant here, and do we need to hear from them?
If you want to.
Is that Mr. Hill? Sure. So we're just seeking an extension on Phase 3.
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead,
Hi.
Jeremy. State your name and address, sir.
Jeremy Hill, 16271 West Miller Road here, Wisconsin. We're asking for an extension for the Phase 3 of the preserve subdivision. Everything's taking a little longer to complete than the time allowed is allowing us. We can show good faith effort that we're moving towards this. We have had our wetlands delineated by an assured wetland delineator that's been submitted to the DNR. Our stormwater management plan has been submitted to the DNR for the first about half of our roads, so which is the first part that we're starting with. We've also completed the survey staking for Phase 1 and 2 prelim plats, and those final plats have been submitted to zoning that you should be seeing coming up next month. So that was almost half of the lots overall and about 2/3 of what's been preliminarily approved already. So we're making good progress just need a little bit more time to get phase 3 surveying done and final plat done.
So Jeremy, you're requesting that extension then, within 36 months to have this done,
Yes,
correct?
yes, we expect to have it done by summer, but yes, 36 months.
Pleasure of the board. Discussion action?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're not going into a public hearing, but you're
Right.
just gaining information from him. I mean, really, this
Yeah.
is zoning committee's decision in order to grant a request of an extension.
Ms. Wilson,
Make a motion to grant the extension request for phase 3 of the preserve
I'll
for
second that.
36 months.
second, motion by Ms. Wilson, second by Mr. Carrianen to approve the extension up to 36 months for phase 3, correct?
Mhm.
Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, Kathy, please. Sorry.
Nope, that's all right. Steve Carrianen.
Yes.
Kay Wilson.
Yeah.
John Starolski.
Yes.
Marshall Savitsky.
Yes.
Tweed Schuman.
Yes.
All in favor.
Hey, thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you much.
Yep. All right, new business, Jay?
Yeah, under new business, last month, we put the calendar schedule together for zoning committee meetings for 2025. We now have it back on the agenda for discussion action. We're looking at the third Friday of every month except April. We moved it back a week due to, what is that, elections? Yeah.
Okay, so you need approval of these dates?
The H is holiday. So what is April 15th or April 18th?
Oh, Good Friday.
Sure it is. Yep. So that's why we moved that one back. Not elections.
Okay,
Need a motion to approve these dates or anything?
We do.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
okay. Motion by Marshall, second by Mr. Sorolski to approve these 2025 calendar dates for zoning committee meetings. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, what else you got, Jay?
Multi-dwelling development update. Yeah, we did hear from the town. We had a kind of town supervisor info meeting late last month. Some of the information we received back from them is, as far as, are there still going to be amendments to the multi-dwelling development? Why are amendments needed to the multi-dwelling development? I have kind of exhausted my efforts in trying to make something consistent within the ordinance because there is still a conflict there. Previously someone said that it's a fetish of mine. It's not necessarily a fetish, but there's inconsistencies and conflicting within the existing ordinance right now. And those still need to be cleaned up one way or the other. So the only two things that I could think of with trying to clean up the ordinance and not myself doing it would be to hire outside ordinance consultants that would cost even more money to try and fix the conflicts that currently exist, or to potentially form an ad hoc and kind of pick apart things that we can change in order to have it read consistently throughout. As part of that formation of the ad hoc and those particularly as the stakeholders, I would be looking at positioning town board supervisors to serve on that ad hoc. Because ultimately, if the towns are the ones not wanting to move forward with the ordinance amendments, I would want them to serve on that ad hoc to see if there's any type of consistency that can be reached. What I'm looking for from the zoning committee is a recommendation to form the ad hoc, which then I will work with county administrator and county board chair as the formation as well as potential members of that.
Sure.
But I thought it'd be good to get a recommendation from this committee so that it's coming from this committee and not necessarily myself
agree.
to form that ad hoc.
Ms. Wilson?
I think not only supervisors, but possible members of their plan commission. Could be.
Potentially, and again, and this is early discussion of this, I have no names together for any of it. Nor do I have, a potential number of members. I mean, you don't want 3, but you also don't want, 13, because you're never gonna have 13 people agree on something, so. And I would work specifically with the county board chair. He was also at that meeting for the town info meeting. So I would take because he ultimately, county board chair has to approve the members of the ad hoc.
Sure.
So I would work with him.
Andy, you have any thoughts on this ad hoc committee? I thought it worked well for the tourist rooming house, honestly.
No,
That
yeah.
really helped us
it
get
worked
through
fine.
it.
I don't have anything else
Focus
to
on
add. That was the discussion we had with the board chairs. It seemed like that was a good approach that they were in favor of.
Anybody else? John or Steve or any thoughts on this?
I'm sorry, you're making the right choice to keep it to an ad hoc committee. And now this would have to be a every month meeting?
Again, it all depends on the formation and the members of it as to, what times and dates make. I mean, maybe we hammer this out in 2-hour, work session. Maybe it's, yeah, right. No. That's my wishful thinking.
But it can also be a short-lived ad hoc.
It would. It
Because
shouldn't
once you get
last
hammered
anywhere
out-
close to the tourist rooming house ordinance. But it is something that I want to convey and, we did have, some focus groups, I'll call them previously in the additional amendments that were proposed earlier. And I think those individuals that were part of that focus group started to understand some of the frustrations I have with the existing ordinance and why it sits there and conflicts itself. And if you're gonna allow this, what about this situation? What about this situation? What about this situation? And then all of a sudden your head starts spinning around real quick. And I'd like all other people to have their heads spinning as much as I do as well, so.
I gotta say that I was at that meeting and my point was to take particular people, put them in that same room, which is a smaller room, and lock the door and come out with a proposal.
Yeah.
And basically that's what's happening, I'd like to say. So,
So it sounds like you're wanting to be on that ad hoc then as well?
no, I was just, it's just, I approve of the way you're putting it together.
So do you want a recommendation from I'm sorry.
So are you looking for someone from each township then?
I mean, 15 towns would be a lot of people to try to agree to it. I think some of again, if we limit it to town board individuals, some names that would come to mind would be Ms. Wilson, because you were kind of part of some of the focus group. Mr. Zaralski, I mean, you've been part of this. I'd probably invite Mr. Benjamin Kurzweil to this as well, because there are some conflicts that he has with some of the proposed ordinance language.
Yeah, before you rattle off too many names, I want to stop.
But I can't.
No, but I just
pick
want
them.
to make sure, because this was an issue the night we had the town board chair meeting. And it even was an issue, then became another issue. Because this committee here has 3 town board members on it. Mr. Strelski, Ms. Wilson, Mr. Buckholz,
Yes.
and potentially Mr. Kinsley can sit in on this committee too if there's an opening.
Yes.
We do not want to put 3 of you on any other committee that's related to and we wouldn't want them on the ad hoc committee because it'd be a quorum of the zoning committee.
Oh, good point.
So,
It would be noticed though.
well, we'd have to notice the zoning committee. We have to put a notice out. for
Oh,
the zoning.
that there'll be a quorum of the zoning
Be
committee
a
present
quorum.
at the ad hoc.
Right.
Yeah,
We
okay.
want to be mindful of that going forward. And even if, and I would just say it would be legal from a public meeting standpoint if we notice it. I don't know that it would be good form to have a quorum of the
Zoning committee on that, sure.
on
that
the
makes
ad
sense.
hoc committee. So just be careful of that.
Sure. So do you want Jay, do you want a recommendation then from this?
I just want a recommendation for
Board
this.
chair, that
Yeah,
we form
that we
this
form an
ad
ad hoc, yep.
Good with that, everyone?
So moved.
Want a motion? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I got a motion by Marshall for a recommendation from the zoning committee to put this ad hoc committee together.
Yep.
Second, anyone? Mr. Sarolski, seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You have a recommendation.
Perfect. I have one other item under new business. So as part of that kind of town info meeting that was held late last month, there was, quite a bit of discussion with policy and timeline. So I did submit a handout to the committee members, which I do plan on forwarding with additional kind of description to the town boards ahead of their November town board meetings. So the first page that you have is the notice cover letter that we send to adjacent property owners. There's always been a lot of discussion as far as, well, what are the neighbors getting? So circa like 4 or 5 years ago, we got away from actually sending comment letters. The comment letters basically were almost intended to, we as the zoning committee are demanding that you tell us what your position is on this. And it was a previous chair that said, well, why are we, seeking out additional comments if that's not required by statutes? The statute's requirement is that additional notification is given to those adjacent property owners. So I do have, and this is recently updated, notice letter to adjacent property owners. If anyone has any issues with the information that's being provided on these notification forms, or if we want to go back to sending straight comment forms to individuals, you as the zoning committee members, please give me direction as to what you want to see. Because it feels like I get thrown under the bus when we are doing what's required by state statutes by certain individuals of the community. We are giving the proper notification to them. We are indicating them of the dates of the zoning committee meeting. We are stating that your opinion is important and that if you have additional comments to provide, here's how you provide them. You can send us a letter, you can email us, you can come into the office and ask additional questions. We also give them the town contact info. Again, we are not always sure when the town plan commissions meet, but we have individuals to reach out to your individual town clerk. Again, we're always working in 3 separate months here. So to make up letters that we're sending out to, 16 different property owners, we generally don't put the actual dates of those town meetings. It's you as a concerned citizen, adjacent property owner, you go talk to your town clerk if you want to be at their town board meeting. The applicant letters that we send out, they are getting those letters and they are getting the dates and times of the zoning committee meeting, as well as, yes, contact your town clerk, because again, you are required to be at your town board meeting. We heard several applicants that, or at least one applicant today that said he didn't get that. I have the read transcripts that an email was provided to his wife, as well as a letter that was dated 2 weeks prior to the town board meeting saying, contact your town board, as you also are required to be at that meeting. The other individual that stopped in the town of Draper, they were severely confused. I spoke with her in office in person and gave her the dates and times of the November public hearing processes at the town board and at the zoning committee. She showed up in October wondering where her application was for the town. She wasn't on the October meeting. She's coming up in November. I don't know how to handhold further than that. So again, here are the notification cover letter, as well as the specifics of the case. They're also given additional maps and correspondence that you are similarly seeing on the packets that you get. They generally, the neighbors are not getting staff reports because I'm not having staff reports done by the time that notification letters go out, but they are getting the maps of the request, whether it's for a conditional use permit or whether it's for a rezone. We also then have a new procedure document that we have for individual applicants as kind of the steps of the process as to if you're submitting for a public hearing, as far as a rezone or a conditional use permit, this is what you can anticipate to expect. This is kind of the sequence and order of events. This is your timeline. This is your process. Again, this information will be distributed to the towns, whether it's either today or the early part of next week. And then the last one is kind of more of that timeline aspect. Again, we're always working in 3 separate months when it comes to public hearing processes. The example I have, as far as the 3 calendar sheet is the last page of your packet, is we have an application deadline, we say for the 15th of every month. Now in September, the 15th wound up on a Sunday. So if an applicant came in on the 16th, we could still fit them in. So the highlighted portions that you see is a series of events for deadlines. So again, a deadline for September 16th would be for hearings in November. So if you turn to the next page, again, in October, the highlighted portions are what's occurring again for that deadline of September. So town info and adjacent property owners information is sent out basically the 21st, 22nd, 23rd of October. The publication deadlines for the paper are on the 25th of October. Staff reports are sent out to the towns on the 28th and the 29th. The first publication goes into the paper on October 30th. We then go to November. We have the Town Plan Commission meetings starting that first week of the month. So whether it's on Monday, the 4th, the 5th, or the 6th, or the 7th, those are generally when Town Plan Commissions meet. Our second publication shows up in the paper on the 6th. We have the town board meetings that next week, usually the 11th, 12th, 13th, or the 14th. We then have zoning committee meeting on the 3rd Friday of the month, which leads to be November 15th. And then we have the decision letters that Kathy goes through as well as minute preparation. So there's a lot of behind the scenes work that's being done months out. So I do want to provide the town as to, this is our working timeline schedule. If there are other, issues with that timeline, we're certainly, willing to make corrections, to that. But for an applicant that's coming in, say, September 20th, past the deadline, and they say, well, I want a, conditional use permit. Okay, well, your deadline's October 15th, so we'll still take the application, but that's still already hearings for December. There was talks where, we should move the application deadlines up. So now if someone's applying for an application on October 1st and they're not going to still be heard till January, I mean, that's or a September 1st for a hearing in January. I mean, that's a considerable amount of time. I feel like our current timeline process works. It works for zoning. Hopefully it works for the towns. I know we have gotten a little late in the last, over the summer months, getting some of the staff reports to them. And only reason I can say is we're over 525 land use permits issued, and there's other duties besides just public hearings. So there was a time that we were not able to get a staff report to a plan commission in time, and they were upset with that. So we'll make sure to get those out so that they have time to review them. Generally, again, those staff reports are not available online prior to a week before the zoning committee. We are working on a new agenda software, which will make that an easier transition. The current software becomes very tedious when you want to re-upload an agenda. You have to go through multiple steps if you change an agenda. The new one should be a lot easier. So hopefully we'll have staff reports available in front of town board meetings now too, moving forward, probably in January or December. So it's not going to be for next month yet, but that's the info I have to share. I just wanted to kind of get that out there as part of a public hearing process, and I'll be distributing this information to the towns here within the next few days.
Okay, question and then a comment, quick. Just going through the committee bylaws and how things done. How many of the towns do you transmit by email and how much by mail?
Rezones have to be sent by certified mail and I email them. This includes the initial email. Then once the packet, the staff report is done, they're emailed a whole separate package for that. They don't. And then, of course, by snail mail.
Okay.
Conditional uses and variances, those I do by email and I do by mail.
Okay.
Because those don't require certified mail.
Yeah, rezones require certified mail.
Yeah.
Mail to the town.
Yes.
And I've got that one for Zook too. It's in the file, signed. You picked it up.
Kathy, do you ever do a read request?
Yes, I do. And most of the towns do not do that. And I'm like, please let me know. I'll write in the email, let me know, do a read receipt, do something that I know that you have gotten this.
I thought that might help.
Yep,
It shows when they've opened it.
yep.
It does.
Mhm.
Well, then,
Yeah,
Right.
Then just the other comment I want to make, not related strictly to the timeline. With the amount of volume of applications, we are going to be moving to an online application. Right now, the applications are online for download. But with our county website, we've signed off on, we have to have some developer work on it. We want to make it sure it's integrated with our Novus and with Laserfish and our county accounting software for payment. So we have 3 departments. Zoning is going to be the most complicated of those because it involves the most pieces. So that'll be actually the last one. Right now, we've got them working on forestry and highway. Thank you. Forestry and highway, and then we'll get to zoning. So we hope to automate the application process for the public as well, and should be easier to transmit those applications and be more efficient with how that's put into our system.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Yep. Have a great weekend.